What's the one thing above all others that you love about less?
Hmm. I love, and in a sense, it kind of plays back to why it chose me. But I love that it's more holistic than a lot of approaches, right? It just calls out that you will have to change your organizational design. You will have to change your governance processes and move away from fixed time, fixed scope projects. You probably, or almost certainly, will have to change your team structure. You will have to change your management style, almost certainly. And it calls out all of these areas that, and in a sense, you have to do those things to make Scrum work, but it's not explicitly called out, right? And he says, no, actually, let's be open and honest about what you need to do. You need to change the organization to make this work. You don't. We're not just going to teach you some stuff that sounds really cool, but when you go to apply it in your organization, you'll realize that there's just impediment after impediment. I like the holistic nature of it, and that it makes clear up front that you're probably not set up for this right now, but you could be. And for me, that kind of holistic view is what I enjoy about it. It's maybe not as pragmatic as some other approaches, but it's real, right? It tells you the truth, and I think that's powerful.
You mentioned there around some of the changes that you'd probably have to make anyway if you were using Scrum. And so less than its holistic view of things has made some of those things which we probably all have done anyway, just more explicit.
Yeah, and it's not different stuff, but it's amplified when you have multiple teams. When you have one team, it's painful if you don't do those things. When you have 5 teams, it's incredibly painful if you don't do those things. Right. So whilst it's always been implicit that management styles have to change when you have self-managing teams, it's always been implicit we need to change our team structures because that's what a self-managing cross-functional team is. It's always been implicit you have to change your governance structures because an empowered product owner reprioritizing based on feedback by definition is incompatible with a fixed scope, right? It's not called out in Scrum as much as it is when you have to scale it up. So yeah, it actually doesn't change anything from Scrum. It just, you feel the pain a lot more if you don't do those things, I guess. But calling it out I think is the right thing to do.
And so it then goes back to one of our earlier conversations, which is, and if you choose not to change those things, and you won't get as much of the effect, which I think often then leaves organizations to adding lots of stuff because it's interesting. They don't want to change, but they're happy to change if it means they can do more of what they were doing before.
They're happy to change the framework rather than themselves, right? And this is where it's, do we want to change the framework to fit us, or do we want to change us to fit the framework? And there's no right or wrong answer. There's just the answer that you give, and that will lead to the framework you use. So yeah, absolutely. It's designed to force you to change, right? But obviously you have to want to change, otherwise you won't. And again, that's why it's Marmite in a lot of respects. It's like, oh, I just could never do that. I don't want to do that. Or we really need to do this, and if we do it, will be incredibly powerful, right? Each to their own on that.
Yeah, you can't do it if you're not willing to think and challenge yourself.
Yeah, challenge yourself, challenge assumptions, mental models, cognitive biases, things that have been handed down from generation to generation of management gurus. Challenge everything, and let the outcome drive the changes you make, right? Which is a very different thing to the really quite engineering Newtonian reductionist approach that we tend to take with organizations, especially when led by engineers or people with that background, right? Because we like to be able to design things and execute things. So, for sure.
You make it sound so easy.